When most people hear the name Michael Jordan, they think first of basketball, the tongue out on a drive to the basket, the 6 championship banners hanging in the rafters at United Center, and that sense that he was just floating above it all. Jordan's name became shorthand for competitive greatness, yet tucked inside that legendary basketball life is another story, stranger and more human than almost anything else in his career. Welcome to this episode of More Than Just a Score. Do us a favor and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It remains one of the most fascinating detours in sports history. Jordan didn't leave basketball after fading from greatness. He left after winning back-to-back-to-back NBA championships. His big league dream had taken a most unconventional route. He wasn't the up-and-coming prospect with years to develop. He entered as a 31-year-old global icon who hadn't played organized baseball at a serious level since high school. And out of nowhere, he was going to be joining the Chicago White Sox organization, where he was assigned to the Birmingham Barons, the team's AA affiliate, in the Southern League, where he faced real professional pitchers trying to climb their way into the show too. Jordan hit .202 for Birmingham in 1994 with 3 home runs, 51 RBI, and 30 stolen bases. It represented a real season, a real grind, and an attempt to learn one of the most difficult skills in sports under the brightest possible spotlight. His baseball career wasn't a side note because it proved he could compete in another sport. It matters because the story behind it is full of grief, ambition, humility, and the willingness of an all-time great to risk public failure in order to chase a dream that had followed him since childhood. Now let's go back to the beginning. Michael Jordan was born on February 17th, 1963 in Brooklyn, New York. But his life and athletic identity were shaped in Wilmington, North Carolina. His parents, James and Dolores Jordan, raised their children with a strong emphasis on discipline, work, and responsibility. Michael grew up in a competitive household where games were never just casual. If something could be won, he needed to win it. That included basketball, baseball, football, and nearly anything else placed in front of him. Long before basketball made him famous, baseball held a special place in his life. Jordan played the game as a boy and developed a deep connection to it through his father. James Jordan loved baseball and encouraged Michael's interest in the sport. The diamond became one of the places where father and son bonded. They played catch, talked about the game, and imagined possibilities. Baseball was a childhood dream that never fully disappeared, even when basketball became his public destiny. Jordan wasn't just a casual baseball fan. As a young athlete, he showed talent in the sport. He had speed, coordination, and a competitive edge that translated well to the diamond. In youth ball, he was good enough to dream beyond the neighborhood. Like most boys, he followed major league players and got the romance of the sport, the summer nights under the lights, the smell of the grass, and the crack of the bat. At Emsley A. Laney High School in Wilmington, Jordan became a multi-sport athlete. The famous story from his high school years is usually told through the lens of basketball, particularly the moment when he didn't make the varsity team as a sophomore and used that disappointment as fuel. Jordan was an all-round athlete before he became a megastar basketball player, but baseball remained a part of his identity. As Jordan grew taller and stronger, basketball gradually pulled him away. It gave him clearer opportunities, first in high school, then in college. That road would eventually lead to the NBA. Still, baseball simmered in the background. It was a constant reminder of his father's belief in him. Now, we can't tell a story about Michael Jordan without acknowledging that the hardwood and hoops turned him into his airness. After high school, Jordan attended the University of North Carolina, where he quickly became one of college basketball's brightest young stars. As a freshman in 1982, he hit the game-winning shot in the March Madness championship game against Georgetown.
32 seconds to go. A 1-point lead for Georgetown.
No, they stay in the 1-3-1 with Ewing in the middle. They've got to look to get it in there. You can't with a shot blocker like Ewing take so much time.
Doherty to Black. The time, 18. Shot, Jordan! Michael Jordan!
14 seconds.
The moment didn't turn him into a global icon, but it gave the basketball world its first clear look at his poise under pressure. After 3 seasons with the Tar Heels, Jordan entered the 1984 NBA draft and was selected 3rd overall by the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls were a franchise searching for an identity. Jordan changed that almost immediately. He won Rookie of the Year, filled arenas, and became one of the most exciting players in the league.
Bulls have it in play. Jordan drives the right baseline. Whoa! Heavy traffic. He went up over Parrish and Bird.
His dunks seemed impossible. His scoring explosions became routine, and his charisma helped push the NBA into a new era of global popularity. Throughout the late 80s, Jordan collected scoring titles and individual honors, but the Bulls kept running into stronger teams, especially the Detroit Pistons. The Bad Boys Pistons were physical. They bullied and frustrated Chicago. Those defeats sharpened Jordan. He added strength, trusted teammates more, and learned how to turn individual brilliance into championship basketball. The breakthrough came in 1991 when the Bulls defeated the Los Angeles Lakers to win the franchise's first NBA title.
The Bulls lead by 7. Final seconds, Magic's three-point attempt blocked. Pippen comes away with it, and the Chicago Bulls have won their first ever NBA championship.
Jordan cried while holding the trophy, overcome by years of pressure that had built toward that moment. Chicago won again in 1992 and then again in 93, completing a three-peat. By the summer of 1993, Michael Jordan had become more than the best player in basketball. He was one of the most famous people in the world. But fame carried a cost. Jordan was followed everywhere. Every game, commercial, practice, and public appearance became part of a massive public machine. The pressure was relentless. He had reached the summit of the sport, but the climate left him exhausted. Then, in July of 1993, his life changed in a way that had nothing to do with sports.
Today it is with regret that I advise you that a body located in Bennettsville, South Carolina has been positively identified as the body of Mr. James Jordan.
James Jordan was murdered in North Carolina. For Michael, the loss was devastating. His father had been a constant presence, a confidant, supporter, and a grounding force. James had been there for the rise from Wilmington to Chapel Hill to the Windy City, and he had shared in the joy of the Bulls championships. After his father's death, basketball no longer felt the same. Jordan was still at the height of his powers, but grief altered his relationship with the game. The NBA schedule, the attention, and the demands of superstardom became heavier. In October 1993, only a few months after winning his 3rd straight title, Jordan announced his retirement from the NBA.
Everyone knows exactly what the circumstances are right now in terms of my decision not to play the game of basketball in the NBA. Doesn't mean I'm not going to play basketball somewhere else, but I've talked to all my confidants, my family, my friends, as Jerry has just informed you, to the organization. I even talked to David Stern as of yesterday and even today, and I'm very solid with my decision of not to play the game of basketball in the NBA.
The decision stunned the world, but others saw a man worn down by fame and loss. Jordan said he had lost some of the desire necessary to keep playing at the level he expected from himself. That detail matters because Jordan's standard was never just excellence. He required total commitment from himself, and if he could no longer give it, he believed he had to step away. Baseball then came sharply into focus. It became a way to honor his father, reconnect with a dream they had shared together. The choice was emotional, but it was not careless. Jordan wanted to test himself, and he wanted to do it honestly. In February of 1994, Jordan signed a minor league contract with the Chicago White Sox. The connection made complete sense. Jerry Reinsdorf owned both the Bulls and the White Sox, so he gave Jordan the opportunity to pursue baseball professionally. Jordan didn't ask for a shortcut to the major leagues. He entered the minor league system where players have to earn advancement through performance and development. From the beginning, the move drew enormous attention. Some observers treated it as a novelty act, while others assumed it was just a phase. Baseball purists wondered whether Jordan could handle professional pitching after so many years away from the game. Could he find his timing, pitch recognition, and swing mechanics? Jordan understood that. In spring training, he worked like a prospect, not a celebrity. He would be the first to arrive in the morning and the last to leave at night. Coaches adjusted his swing. Pitchers tested him. Reporters watched and waited for him to fail. Every swing and miss was magnified because the person failing was Michael Jordan. Still, he kept grinding. The physical tools were there. He could run and had enough strength to drive the ball when he connected. The harder part was getting the rhythm of baseball back. Basketball rewards constant motion and lightning reaction, but baseball is a game of patience and repetition. A great hitter fails 7 times out of every 10 at-bats. Jordan, who had built his basketball identity around control and dominance, had to adjust to a sport that humbled everyone. At the end of spring training, Jordan was assigned to the Birmingham Barons, the Double-A affiliate of the Chicago White Sox. It's a serious level of pro baseball filled with prospects close enough to the majors to believe they've got a real chance. Many pitchers that he faced spent years refining their pitch arsenal and had the ability to exploit weakness. The 1994 Barons season became a bit of a traveling circus. Home games drew attention, but road games were even more revealing. Small Southern League parks suddenly hosted the most famous athlete in the world. Reporters who normally covered NBA Finals games were now watching Double-A baseball. Fans came early, hoping for autographs or even just an up-close glimpse of Jordan in uniform. But to him, perhaps for the first time in his professional life, he was just one of the guys. Teammates later described him as hardworking and respectful. He did the long bus rides and was part of the daily grind. He didn't pretend to be better than the game. He asked questions, he took extra BP, and worked on his fielding. He studied pitchers. For someone whose basketball life had been defined by mastery, the baseball season required public apprenticeship. In 127 games, he hit .202 with 3 home runs, 51 RBI, and 30 stolen bases. They weren't great numbers and captured the difficulty he faced, but he wasn't overmatched every day.
1-1 pitch to Michael. Looping drive, it'll score at least 1. Matola up with it. His throw to the plate is not in time, and Jordan delivers a 2 RBI single to right center field.
He improved as the season went along. Jordan was facing pitchers who had spent their lives honing their craft, while he was trying to compress years of development into just a few short months. The fact that he could even compete at Double-A at all was impressive. Jordan's baseball year placed him in a completely different sports culture. The NBA had made him a global superstar, but the minor leagues gave him bus rides with teammates and cramped clubhouses instead of the polished spectacle of NBA arenas. There were quiet batting cages, dusty fields, and a slower rhythm. Jordan accepted that contrast and maybe even reveled in it. He had more than enough money and fame to avoid discomfort, but discomfort was part of the point. He was chasing the game his father loved, and the authenticity of the dream meant living the minor league life. As much as he was embracing the Double-A life, the spotlight was still very much there, and it affected everyone around him. Barons players found themselves surrounded by more media. Some benefited from that exposure, while others had to adapt to it. Opposing pitchers had extra motivation. Striking out Michael Jordan was a story they could tell forever. Every at-bat became a small contest between Jordan's athletic mythology and baseball's stubborn difficulty. Jordan wasn't embarrassed by being challenged. He was actually drawn to it. The same competitiveness that drove him to attack defenders in the NBA pushed him to keep battling curveballs in Birmingham. He didn't conquer baseball, but he respected it enough to struggle honestly. As Jordan continued to grind, Major League Baseball entered into a period of labor unrest. In August 1994, a players' strike began that eventually led to the cancellation of the World Series. The labor dispute disrupted the sport and created uncertainty throughout the game. Jordan returned to the White Sox organization in 1995, but the strike complicated things. Replacement players became a possibility, and Jordan didn't want to be used in that way. At the same time, the tug of basketball was gnawing at him again. He began working out with NBA players. Reports of his basketball activity increased. The Bulls, meanwhile, were no longer the same dominant team without him. The baseball dream had given him space to grieve and reset. It had challenged him, humbled him, and allowed him to reconnect to his father's memory. But Jordan's competitive fire on the basketball court hadn't disappeared. It was just waiting. On March 18, 1995, Jordan announced his return to basketball with one of the most famous press releases in sports history. It contained just 2 words: "I'm back." There was no long explanation, just a declaration everyone understood. The next day, Jordan returned to the Bulls against the Indiana Pacers. He wore number 45, the number he had used in baseball, rather than his famous number 23. The Bulls reached the playoffs that spring but lost to the Orlando Magic, a defeat that stung Jordan and added fuel to the competitive fire that raged within him. He responded the only way he knew how, by working. The 95-96 Bulls became one of the greatest teams in NBA history, winning 72 regular season games and capturing the championship. Jordan was named league and finals MVP. The title was deeply emotional because it came on Father's Day, 3 years after his previous championship and less than 3 years after the death of James Jordan. Chicago won it all again in 97 and 98, completing a second three-peat. The baseball chapter now appeared to be just a strange middle act in a dynasty. It was much more than just an interruption. It was a reset that helped Jordan return refreshed, sharp, and reconnected. Jordan's baseball career remains easy to misunderstand. If judged only by major league standards, he didn't reach the top. If judged only by batting average, he struggled. But sports stories aren't always measured by whether the ending is triumphant. The joy is in the journey. He attempted to do something that was nearly impossible. He entered professional baseball in his 30s after years away from the sport and faced Double-A pitching while carrying the weight of his own stature. Most athletes wouldn't risk that kind of public failure. Jordan, though, had already secured a basketball legacy, yet he stepped into a different sport knowing he would look ordinary. That's why the story still resonates. It humanizes him. The baseball year shows Jordan not as an untouchable basketball god, but as a grieving son and restless competitor. He wanted to honor his father. He also wanted to test himself. He wanted to know what might happen if he gave an old dream one serious chance.
It was this thing that we talked about, so it wasn't like the reason that I'm doing it is because he's dead, because I was going to do it anyway. I had plans to do it anyway. He's tried to talk me into doing it a couple years before now, and I wasn't ready, and I guess in doing it now, it's like a thank you to him.
It should also be noted that his manager in Birmingham, the legendary skipper Terry Francona, has said of Jordan that had he stuck with baseball, his relentless effort to get every last drop out of his talent could have carried him to the major leagues. After the Bulls won their 6th NBA championship in 1998, Jordan retired again in January of 99. Many thought that would be the end of his playing days, yet the pull of competition continued to stir in him. In 2001, he returned again, this time with the Washington Wizards. The years in Washington weren't the soaring championship years of Chicago, but they showed Jordan's enduring skill and stubbornness. He was now older and dealing with the natural limits of age, but he remained capable of brilliant nights. He played 2 seasons in Washington before retiring for good in 2003. By then, his playing record was secure. 6 NBA championships, 5 regular season MVP awards, 10 scoring titles, and an influence that stretched far beyond basketball. Still, the baseball chapter stayed lodged in public memory because it was different. Few athletes have ever been famous enough for such a move to become global news, and fewer still would have accepted the challenge after reaching the pinnacle of another sport. Jordan's life after professional sports became another chapter in reinvention. He remained central in basketball culture through the Jordan brand. Sneakers bearing his name connect him to generations too young to have watched him play. He also moved into ownership. Jordan became the majority owner of the Charlotte Bobcats in 2010. That role made him the first former NBA player to become the majority owner of an NBA franchise. In 2023, he sold his majority stake while retaining a minority position in the franchise. He also expanded his sports interests beyond basketball by becoming involved in NASCAR through the 2311 racing team. Philanthropically, he supported medical clinics, education, and social justice causes. His donations and public commitments added another dimension to a life often viewed mainly through championships and business success. Michael Jordan's baseball career lasted only a short time, but it remains one of the richest stories in modern sports. It begins with a boy in North Carolina who loved baseball and shared that love with his father. It intersects with the rise of a basketball icon who conquered the NBA to become a global superstar. It's also the story of pain and grief that drives a man to pursue a dream that never fully disappeared. In Birmingham, Jordan didn't become a baseball legend. He became something more relatable, a great athlete trying something hard, failing often, but slowly growing by refusing to quit. His stats tell part of the story, but not all of it. The rest is found in long bus rides, batting cages, and the courage to begin again. When he returned to the NBA, he authored up one of the greatest comeback stories in sports history, but the baseball season remained essential because it helped explain the person behind the legend. Michael Jordan wasn't only chasing championships, he was chasing a dream and sustaining a passion passed on from father to son. We hope that you've enjoyed taking a glimpse into a lesser talked about chapter in the story of one of sports' greatest icons. Do us a favor and give us a like and subscribe to the channel, and join us next time when we look for more than just a score.